So, I've got Ash with us here today, and it's going to be a story ranging from bar fights in Widnes pubs, my hometown, growing up in Rainhill, the town next to my hometown. My mum actually worked with Ash's brother for many years, and I met him. Very charismatic guy. And Ash ends up in prison in Jamaica, yes. And we did have another guy on who was in prison in Jamaica, and we know what that's like. But Ash was a young person when this happened. So we're going to get into the details of that. We're going to get into his work now in prisons. He has courses, runs an education company with his brother, activism, and also the racism he experienced, and you know what's going on around the world now, how big an issue that has become. So huge thank you for coming on then, Ash.
Thank you so much for having us, Shaun. It's
You're welcome.
huge pleasure.
Yeah. So you were saying you grew up in Rainhill, and what was that like?
You know, I've never felt like I fit in anywhere, Shaun, you know, and I certainly didn't fit in Rainhill. And I've got a few mates who I still see, you know, now, weddings, funerals, the odd drink, and I love them. Still, some of them still live in Rainhill, Whiston, Prescott. Lovely guys. But generally, the general kind of culture in Rainhill, to me, it's kind of like aspiring middle class, you know. And in the 80s, there was those people who had that opportunity for social mobility, you know, even just working in the NHS or driving a bus, you could get a decent house then. So people were really working their way up the ladder. And it seemed to me, there was a lot of snobbiness there. You know, people almost thought they were better than the people who didn't have quite as much down the road where they came from. In whatever Whiston, Heighton, Prescott, Widnes, St. Helens, whatever, you know. And so I never fit in with the snobby vibe. And the whole race thing, there was nobody there that looked like us, you know. I know there was two other black lads about my age in the area whose families were African. And there was, in our year, there was one black guy, one Indian, African, two Chinese girls. That was it. And then 250 other kids and me. And so, you know, you stood out like a sore thumb, and there was always a kind of, you couldn't articulate it or even understand it at the time, what was being done. But you're constantly around this racism. There was the racism in the pubs, you know, what people would shout at John Barnes in the Vic. You must have been there at them scenes, you know. I mentioned it in there, you know. Can I swear on this?
After the first 5 minutes, we've got another few minutes to go.
Okay,
so let's just hold off on the swearing.
Okay,
it's a YouTube policy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, the kind of terms that we used to describe.
Oh yeah, let's not.
Footballers.
You can say N word, but don't say the N word.
Okay.
Because that again, we can't ever say that. Completely violates.
Okay.
We had Frenchie on, and he used it a lot. And we had to take the video down not once but twice because there was so many usages of it to take those out.
Okay, well, you know, I'm a fan of hip hop and rap music, and I've rapped a lot myself. And so we tend to talk in the way we talk, you know, the vernacular we use on the streets.
Yeah.
The N words on the first page of that book.
Right.
That's what people said. That's the way it was.
Of course.
So then you know.
Quick question for you then. All right. So I read the Liverpool Echo article.
Okay.
It says when you were in the Jamaican prison, they were calling you a white boy. So what could you explain what your racial heritage is then?
My dad is a black Jamaican guy. My mum is white Scottish.
Okay.
They met in Yorkshire.
In Yorkshire.
In Hull, whilst training for the NHS. I was born in Beverley. In Yorkshire.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
Came to Rainhill when I was 1, because my dad got a job in Rainhill Hospital, which is
Yeah.
all that Rainhill was known for back in the day, the Rainhill Hospital.
Yeah, I've had some visits up there, Rainhill, Whiston. Yeah.
The institution, asylum as it would have been called in those days, I guess.
Yeah. And you're a little bit younger to me, and just to let the people know then, you know, growing up in Widnes, next to Rainhill, predominantly white, you'd hardly see anybody, you know, outside of the white race. And it was homophobic, it was racist, you know, people would like run into Indian restaurants and not pay and just run off. And it was a lot different. I mean, the racism is always around, but it was really hardcore, wasn't it, back then?
It was, and people just said it, you know, so the corner shop was called the P word by everyone.
Yeah.
That was just normal. The chippy, the Chinese takeaway was called the CH word, you know. That was just normal. The market, St. John's Market, was called the P Market. You go in the P, you know. That was just, that wasn't even, he didn't even consider it to be a thing. And you say rampant homophobia. You just didn't even think of it. Yeah. Which is why I'm trying to discuss all these kind of like this polarisation that we grew up around. Because you get to a point where you realise, well, that isn't actually normal. That isn't even acceptable.
Yeah.
But you don't question it until you actually learn how to think critically. And with the education system being so garbage, so it's more of an indoctrination system. It doesn't really inspire you to want to learn. And I don't think it works for half of the people in the system.
What school did you go?
Rainhill.
Rainhill High. So was the kids in that school racist towards you as well?
Racism was just part of everyday life. So, okay, for example, so growing up, you know, when you're young, when you're about 4, 5, 6, 7, people start saying things like, "Oh, my mum says you're coloured." Yeah. It was kind of polite, or you're half caste. Yeah. But at the time, you don't even realise what that means. So I remember looking in the mirror and looking for the stripes of colour, red, purple, blue. Honestly, honestly.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see that even my dad, 6'2", black Jamaican, big afro beard, had like a big 80s microphone, I couldn't even see that he looked different to other people's dads. Because it wasn't a consideration that people would think about the tone of pigment, the pigment in your skin, and the melanin, and go, "Oh, that's the difference we're talking about." So what did he mean by the fact that he say, "I'm coloured"? I'm not coloured, and no one ever explained it. And I don't blame my parents. You know, in those days, parents didn't talk to young people about anything. Most people my age say the same thing. Yeah, we didn't have those conversations with your parents or your teachers the way we do now with our kids. Yeah, you know. So then you get a bit older, and it's like, then I've got an older brother, as you know, and there'd be older kids referencing him and saying things about him because he was a bit tough. Then you have to become tough when he's 8 years older than me.
These northern sounds, very tough, hard drinking people, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I imagine you would have gotten a lot of fights.
I hated violence. So people. There was times when I was young, I've had people call me an N-word and punch me in the face. Yeah. And I've just laughed it. I've giggled. I've laughed it off. Oh, that's supposed to hurt. Not because I was scared, because I didn't understand violence. I didn't like violence, didn't see the point of violence. I had no interest in who was the cock of the school and all that stuff. Yeah. Until I got up to about 15, 16, and there's an incident I describe in the book there where I had a bit of a fight with a guy called me girlfriend the N-lover. Yeah, which again was a common term you heard all the time, N-lover, you know. Yeah. But then, so I got in a fight with him. He was quite tough, like the second toughest guy in our year, and I wasn't a fighter, had no interest in violence, and I was doing okay. But then we had another fight, and I just didn't feel aggressive or violent, and I just lay down and let myself get battered. Yeah. And he was calling me a B. Can I say that? A B word. I don't know what I can say here. But another common term in those days, you B bastard, you know, and all that kind of thing. You N the word, you this, that, the word. And I think that was almost like a turning point where sometime after that I was like, I've been letting people abuse me my whole life, and I'm strong. I'm quite small, but I'm strong, man. And I don't have to let people get away with it. And the hormones kicked in, and the resentment kicked in, and the anger. And at that point, then I just suddenly had something to prove. And then I was like fighting a lot. You know, anyone looks at me sideways, you know. But that was kind of after school. Yeah, yeah.
So what was a night at Top of the Town like? For people who don't know, this is a club where people in Widnes used to go on the weekends in particular, picking up women if you're a man and the other way around if you're a woman, and a lot of drunken behaviour. Legendary drunken behaviour.
Pia, piano, doing the okey cokey, you know, cheesy madness, but by God, the girls. But it was
Tough as they call it, don't they?
You know, if you used to going out in Liverpool where the girls were kind of, you know, not that easy unless you drove a 4 before with a gangster, you know, to suddenly find yourself in Widnes, it was like, oh, it was like a dream. It was like Newcastle. I lived in Newcastle. I was on a run one time in Newcastle, and that was another experience. Like, oh my gosh, this is not like Liverpool dripping with girls. But yeah, anyway, Widnes, top of the town. Gosh. So one instance, for example, I remember my brother said to me, he just tapped me on the shoulder. We were obviously really drunk as ever. And he said to me, Ash, someone's just called me this is the K word, a K word, okay? So, and I thought, he's always saying, you know, in those days, he was always talking about that kind of stuff. Oh, you're just exaggerating again. I rolled my eyes. What are you talking? And just as I turned my head, this guy's face was right there. And he went, yeah, you effing N. That just attacked me like, you know, just out of nowhere. But this was common, you know. And we ended up, you know, fighting, and, you know, ended up outside. And then we went back to, we ended up with a couple of long-bladed kitchen knives. Anyway, well, I did end up with a long-bladed kitchen knife in my hand, and getting arrested by the police outside top of the town, you know. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. Nobody was seriously injured.
Did they take you to the Widnes cop shop?
Regularly. I'm telling you this one instance as an example. Yeah, you know, I work in prisons now, and obviously what we do in prisons, I know you do too, and what we do, obviously, I gather you do a similar thing. We'll talk about those kind of experiences to get the guys on board, have a bit of a laugh about it, because again, I'm not ashamed of my past.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff, you know, at the time was fun. Yeah. It was dangerous. It was stupid. I wouldn't advise anyone to get into it, but I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy myself. But it's not what we actually want. Nobody wants to be off their head on drugs. Nobody wants to have their freedom curtailed. Nobody wants to be looking over the shoulder all the time, or in dangerous situations that might get you killed. Nobody wants to be the person that their mother is ashamed of. Nobody actually wants that. But we start by telling the story, so we get the prisoners, the guys and gals, we work in the female prison as well, on board by talking realistically about what it feels like to be in those situations, and what it is about society that pushes us towards those situations, why we can only attain those things like peace of mind or feeling good or having a sense of belonging through these crazy acts, by aligning ourselves with people who aren't well and doing dangerous stuff. So we move from that then into talking about, you know, how you can overcome that, you know. But yeah, so
getting hit.
I don't tell them so to glorify it. That's just the way it was.
Getting hit takes getting used to, doesn't it? When you get hit, like starting out in martial arts, when you first sparring, you're like, whoa, you got to get used to that. So it sounds like you had to get used to that at a very young age.
Yeah, and obviously we started training as well quite young. So I was always, because I was ADHD, so I get another reason why school didn't work for me. I couldn't sit still and listen to people tell me what to think all day, you know. So I got my mum and dad had to send me exercise, and they wouldn't give me the medication that the doctor put me on because I fell asleep with my head in my ravioli, and we didn't want to smuggle a ravioli every night, you know. So they sent me running and swimming. So I was very fit. From the time I was 6, I was running and swimming 5 times a week. Yeah. And then, obviously, as we got older, we got into kickboxing, martial arts. Yeah. At that time, MMA wasn't even a thing. But we used to watch these videos where they'd put people together, so they'd put like a sumo wrestler for fighting like a kickboxer, or a judo guy.
I watched those videos.
I remember that. Yeah. And that basically then that evolved, didn't it, into what we have now, into the mixed martial arts. That we have now.
Ultimate Fighting Challenge as well.
It wasn't a thing then. You know,
Tank Abbott.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so then the Gracies, the jiu-jitsu, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu Gracie family just started winning everything. And that's why people then took on that, okay, the jiu-jitsu twist your toe off business, that works in this setting. And that would be enabled. So anyway, so we used to put on the gloves and beat each other up in my mum's back garden and, you know, learn how to become tough. Yeah. Almost because, so in that way, as well as fighting on the streets and fighting outside the clubs, you get used to, you know, not cowering, because that's the worst thing you can do is cower or go into a ball if you're getting attacked. Because fist flying towards your face just becomes second nature.
Yeah. Yeah. So when the ecstasy rave scene hit, did the violence chill out for a bit? Because the soccer hooliganism went down, didn't it?
The what?
Soccer hooliganism went down. All the rival towns were like hugging each other in those clubs like Quadrant Park and stuff.
Yeah.
I had Manchester friends and they were shitting themselves. I was like, come on the quad. And they're like, all right, when they came to quad, and they were okay for a bit before it got moody later on.
I hated football anyway, but I had friends who were into the soccer hooliganism stuff. But I'd say, you know, it was the whole ecstasy. It was like love and peace, and it was all love. What if you'd had? Again, I mentioned it in the book. You know, you get these scenes of people all like hugging each other, and what if you'd had? What if you'd had? All that nonsense, and, you know, sweating all over each other. And then by the end of the night, people would be bottling each other outside the state. Every weekend there was a police van, and there'd be bottles getting thrown in it, and somebody would be getting attacked. So it was love and peace in the club, and then violence once you're outside the club.
Yeah,
you know, it was a.
I did have some crazy nights at the state. Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. All right, so you end up in this Jamaican prison at a young age, then. So what are you doing in Jamaica?
You know, we went there. So the book is kind of, it's a fictionalized memoir, if you like. So it's all true. What happened in there, the narrative arc, that all happened. But I've changed the names of the characters. All the characters' names are changed, and some of the place names are changed, and some small details, like, for example, that was my second time in Jamaica. In the book, it's the character's first time.
Yeah.
So that culture shock, I just wanted to put all in one go for the sake of the narrative, you know.
What was your first time like then?
Well, I went there the first time with my best friend, Scott, who's not with us anymore, and with me dad. And yeah, it was, again, so I've blended the two together here, so it's strange talking about the actual story and the book. But it was beautiful in terms of going. It was what I wanted from Jamaica, was to go to a place where I feel a connection with these people. I don't feel like I fit in the place where I live and where I'm growing up.
Yeah.
And I feel something. I feel something in reggae music. Also, when I listen to rap music and hip hop, I feel I don't quite get even what they're talking about. I don't know anything about black culture, black history at that time.
Yeah.
I haven't lived in a black community, so I don't even understand some of the vernacular they use or some of the references. Yeah. But there's something there that I have. It's in my genes, something, and I just want to know what it is and where I fit within it. And obviously, at that time, I wanted to like dress in a more black way. As if there is a black way. That sounds ridiculous. I know, but I was looking for role models.
Yeah.
And these role models, there wasn't any scholars or authors. Where were the black scholars and authors, black male scholars and authors, or even film directors of the day, or heroes in the movies?
Yeah.
Where were they? They weren't there.
Yeah.
We had Trevor McDonald, mate, and he weren't very exciting to a 14-year-old Sky, you know what I mean? So you look into hip-hop and all that, you know. So and then I started going to the St. John's Market, so we politely call it St. John's Market, and buying the baggy clothes, all that kind of stuff, and maybe if I walk a bit, you know, do a bit of a walk, or I don't know. So I wanted to find what is the essence, what is that thing. And again, I couldn't have articulated it at the time, but looking back, that's what it was. And I found that I saw something in the feel of Jamaica, in the way people express themselves.
Yeah,
that was part of me. I don't think they saw me in them. I'm an outsider.
Yeah.
Not only because, well, you can ask me about the tone of skin thing if you like. How do I come to be the white person? Because I gather walking around here, most people look at me and say, "Oh, that's a black mixed race guy," you know. Yeah. But in Jamaica, it's white man. Okay. So not only is there that difference, but also the fact that I haven't come from a culture where a culture where I speak or connect with their ways of being. You understand? So I don't even know how to express myself in the way that they do. Yeah, I don't know their cultural references. Yeah. So I'm as English and as white as they get.
So you went to Jamaica.
Yeah.
You had this like hope of learning things, but then they're calling you the white boy. Did you not anticipate anything like that would happen?
No.
Was it a shock then?
It was a shock. You know, even in what actually happened, even though I was there the year before, I didn't obviously end up, you know, in a detention centre the year before. So it was only really when I ended up in a detention centre. You know, the first time I went with my dad, people are trying to get money off you the way they do in poorer countries, that kind of thing, in the street. And I remember my dad speaking in patois to a guy, as if to put him off, because my dad's Jamaican, but my dad has lived in England since he was in his early 20s, and he was working his way through with the NHS as a lecturer. He became principal lecturer at John Moores University, so he was a very well-read, very highly intelligent, but also he'd lost a lot of his Jamaican accent. Well, totally lost his accent. But now he's speaking in patois to put this guy off, and the guy's going, Englishman! Even that shocked me. I was like, oh my God, even my dad can't get away with it, you know. But then the realisation that they think of me as white didn't really come until I was in the detention centre. And even then, I thought they were doing it maybe to annoy me, maybe to wind me up. Maybe it was a way of bullying me, putting me down, belittling me. And it wasn't until one day I was walking past this room and there was a family visiting one of the lads in this detention centre. And I walked past the window and this young girl saw me through the window and she went, oh my God, they've got a white boy in here. And it was at that point I thought, now she wasn't putting that on. She's like, whoa, white boy, you know. So I was like, this is real. And then I'm trying to get my head around it. Chatting into what? Explain to me how you think I'm white. And they're going, because you're white. but I'm not. And they go, but you are, you know. And then at one point I remember saying, I'm trying to explain to me, I remember this guy, Skirk, how he's saying to me, so you think you're black? I'm saying, look, people where I come from, and this is I turned 17 in this detention centre, my 17th birthday in there. Yeah. There's a young, naive kid who's got nothing from school. I didn't read books at the time, knew nothing about black culture, and I'm trying to explain in this uneducated way what it means to be like me where I'm from and why I think I'm black. Yeah. Because everyone else, because it's been foisted on me. I didn't wake up one day and go, I think I'll be black. It's like, you know what I mean? It's N-word, coloured, K-word. You know, that's all your life. So you go, well, I have to develop this black identity then. That's been foisted upon me. The police had arrested me a number of times for no good reason at that point because they were racist. So I'm trying to explain this to these guys. And I'm saying, well, you know, people where I come from, if you look like me, you know, you can't get like as good a job and stuff. And they're going, why? I'm saying because I'm black. And they go, oh, I see what you mean, because of the way you walk and the clothes you wear. No, because of my face. Because I'm black. And then I was trying to grow. I had this awful, horrible, greasy thing I was trying to do with my hair at the time. I was trying to grow dreadlocks and it wasn't working. And I was like, you know, Bob Marley's dad was white, yeah? So I'm trying to explain now that to them. And, you know, everyone in Jamaica is a mix as well. No one's like pure African in Jamaica. Yeah. Everyone's mixed, you know what I mean? But that's not good. Anyway, it's a different system. It's a shadism system, okay? Or a pigmentocracy. Okay, the lighter you get, it's almost like the easier it is nowadays to kind of get the best jobs, whatever. So there's a certain point, a cut-off point where they go, no, that's white. Even my dad's mum thinks of me as white.
Yeah.
I'm your grandchild. I don't understand what's going on.
Right.
Go on.
Before we get to the prison story there, what happened during those visits that led up to things going wrong?
What do you mean?
So you got your first visit. Was that plain sailing? You didn't get any trouble?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. So there was a little something.
A little taste of what might come the next year, you know. I was like, I put it all together into one thing in the book.
Did you connect with the drug culture out there to hook up your weed?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right, so anything notable over that first visit then that you want to talk about, or do you want to go straight to the second visit?
I'll go straight to the second visit.
Okay.
But yeah, let me just finish what I was saying. The reason why I mentioned the hair thing is because I then said to this guy, oh, you know, it's like Bob Marley. And he looks at me and goes, you think you like Bob Marley because of your hair? And honestly, he was so vexed that I just said that I just said I'm like Bob Marley. Like, no, I'm not saying I'm like Bob Marley. I was saying anyway. That's the point I was making. Yeah, okay. So to the second visit, go on. So me getting in trouble, is that what you want to explain?
take us through. Take all the time in the world you want. The second visit, how you got there, and what it was like establishing yourself again there, and then how you got in trouble. Yeah.
Well, to keep it concise, because you say take as long as I want, but I can talk some, so I always...
That's what we want on this podcast. We sell people. People say, well, to cut a long story short, I'm like, no! We want long stories long. We got up to 2 hours.
You don't know me well enough, Shaun, honestly. Anyone who knows me watches this house going, tell him to stop! Okay. So, you know, and I was there for a couple of days. I ended up in a nightclub. Obviously, I had connected by then with the drug culture. I would like to explain that I was only 16 at the time, but by then I'd been going to nightclubs and stuff since I was 14. That was quite normal back in the day, going to the pub and the club at 14, 15 years old. You don't think you get away with that now.
Describe connecting with that drug culture. How did that happen?
Well, the first time I was there, you know, obviously the first thing you do is you're in Jamaica, you're like, and you can smell the weed. You know, it grows in the cracks in the pavement, so you're just like, got the weed, you know. And we nearly got ourselves in trouble like that, you know. One guy sold us some weed and then went, now you're under arrest. I was like, what? And he was like, but that's okay, just give me $200. I was like, okay. And he was like, cool. Now pay for the weed. Oh, okay. He's like, cool. And just got off. I was like, and she starts to go, hang on a minute, that's kind of what goes on, is it? That's one of the things they do here, is they kind of, and they go, was he really a policeman? I don't know what just happened there. And then there's obviously there's the cocaine there as well.
Was that like a scam they pull on tourists then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could have bought myself out when I got arrested on the second time. I was just too naive to even. There was a guy who was hinting, tell it, how much money have you got? I was going, just that much. Going, you must have more money than this. I'm going, no, just that much, man. I had money in my sock as well at the time. And he's going, but an English rude boy like you have more money than this. Where's the rest of your money? Show me how much money you have. And I was like, just that, you know. I didn't know what he's getting at.
Yeah.
And I probably could have got out that night. 2.5 weeks later, I'm still in this underground stinking dungeon in this tropical country getting beaten over the head while people shout white man. And I could have probably just got off that night. But I was a naive kid from a nice, leafy suburb in England. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We know there was all the fighting and the racism and the nonsense. But again, Rainhill was a nice, leafy suburb.
Lovely countryside. Cronton on that side, especially.
You know, it wasn't like being an urban kid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. We were fighting all the time to prove ourselves, but it wasn't rough. We weren't poor.
Yeah,
you know. So I was naive. So anyway,
so you've gone back the second time. You've already got your drug hookups.
Yeah.
And then what?
Well, you know, I was off my face one night. I was staggering back to the hotel. A guy stepped out from behind a wall and said, yo, yeah, man, where you from? I said, oh, England, Liverpool. What? And he just grabbed me gold chain. I was walking with the gold chain hanging out, like staggering down. He grabbed me gold chain and snatched it off my neck. So I grabbed the gold chain with the other hand and just whacked him. So and I remember this like it's in slow motion. He took this butterfly knife out of his pocket and unfolded it. And honestly, to me, it's like slow motion, just watching him. And I went, cracked him again. So, but wait for the knife to be unfolded and then crack it. You know, you think, what's going through your head? You know what I mean? At which point, surprise, the knife pierces me a number of times. So we're rolling round. Eventually, my brother caught up with us. He was down the bottom of the hill. This was just like we were halfway up a hill. So he's run up the hill, and we managed to. The knife ended up in my... I still got the slash wounds across my fingers where I grabbed the knife, managed to get it into my hands, and then we give him a good kick in. He ran off, and then I collapsed. I'd lost so much blood. You know, if you get stabbed in the thigh, you can lose a lot of blood.
The female artery,
yeah. Well, a lot of people die because
people
tend to think that if you stab someone, they always go for the legs and the backside, thinking that they won't kill them. But they don't realise, like you say, there's a huge artery here. You know, you can bleed to death. So, I then collapsed. So I was in the hospital, drips, blah, 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 blah. The policeman wouldn't let me in the car, because he didn't want me bleeding all over the back of the car. And then that same dude, that same policeman who didn't want me in his police car, a couple of days later, stopped me in the street. And they'd blocked off, there's a place called Gloucester Avenue, they call it the Hip Strip, and they were having a carnival there, a Monday night carnival. I think it was the first time they'd done it for the tourists and whatever, you know, reggae music and bowl, dance contests, whatever.
Yeah.
And they cordoned it off just before it started getting busy to search people.
Yeah.
Now, when I say search people, and this is another thing we have to, be honest about the insidiousness and the nuances of racism. Okay, this is Jamaica, and who's getting searched by the police in Jamaica? No white people, no women, no older people, young black men. That's it. So if you want to get your knife in, give it to your girlfriend. She ain't getting searched. Yeah. If you're a tourist, you want to get passed over with your cocaine, give it to your white mate. He ain't getting searched. This is Jamaica. You know. Young black men getting searched. They had a big truck. As I discovered, they were searching people for weapons. So there was just like knives, machetes, just going on the back of this truck. It ended up piled with weapons. Wow. But I only discovered that because I went down there early, and there was, as I say, searching young black Jamaican men and me. Even though I'm apparently the white boy, at that point wasn't white enough to not get searched. You know what I'm saying? Worst of both worlds, you know. And I had a few spliffs in a cigarette box in Jamaica. So I thought, well, you know, all right, you know, even if I got nicked in England, I'd probably, you know, maybe in the cells a bit and maybe go to court, pay a little fine at worst. Or you might just take it off you and let you go, you know. So I'm not worried about this at all. It's Jamaica, you know. It's fine. It was illegal. Weed was illegal at the time. It isn't now. It was then. But didn't quite work out that way. So I was in the cells. They took me there all night, took me to the cells, and then I was with this local lad who'd been locked up for harassing tourists. And he was saying to me, so it's okay, you go to court tomorrow, you pay a fine, you carry on with your holiday, it's all fine. I said, that's cool. He said, how old is you, rude boy? I said, I'm 16. Ooh, you tell them you're 16 already? I was like, yeah, why? Oh, that mean you go a family card. And this was on the Monday night, yeah. I said, I mean you go a family card. I was like, all right, what time's family court? He goes, Thursday. I said, Thursday? So hang on a minute. And then, come family court, so I got moved from there to this other place called Barnett Street Correctional Facilities. Okay, Thursday, and I got harassed. Obviously, now I'm walking into these places. Okay, it was like a juvenile's place. So, man, walking down to the place where they have the fellas locked up, down this track, there was guys shouting at me in these cells. It was like oh man, it was a horrific place. And this guy shouting at me, you white man, red man. There was another one, red man, you with me, red man. And I've got these big red Alessi boots on. I've got these nice fancy baggy pants from the you know, St. John's Market. I've got a nice shirt on, a nice Malcolm X t-shirt underneath. Yo, give me that shirt, them shoes is mine, red man. I was, oh no. Now, I don't know what would have happened if it ended up with them dudes, but they put me in this juvenile bit, which was all girls. So I went from that, and then I walk into this, on this landing, and it's like, oh, there's girls in that cell. Oh, there's girls in that cell as well. More girls. Like, I don't know what's going on here, but it's better than down there, do you know what I mean? But then there was this one cell for boys. So in that cell at that time, when I first went in, there was another lad about my age, and another lad maybe a year younger. And then they set upon me. Then it's like, oh, white man, give us your shoes, take your pants down, let's see what money you've got in your pockets. Take your pants down so we can see if you've got shorts on and what money you've got on your shorts. And obviously, I'm not going to give you my shoes, and I'm not going to pull my pants down, and I've got two massive gaping holes in my leg. You know, and I don't really want to expose them. And no, I'm not going to pull me pants. No, I'm just not, you know. Yeah. So they attack me with one of them. He had like a weapon stashed behind, like where the railings are. It's just like a long piece of metal sharpened at the end. And he's trying to attack me with that. So I had to defend myself against that. And
how were you defending yourself against that?
I battered him. I gave him a good hiding. But I had no choice. Yeah, he was poking me with the thing.
Raw survival.
And you know when you think you're bleeding, because I don't know, because it's through my clothes, but it feels like maybe I'm bleeding now. Yeah. And I'm against the railings, so I just had to defend myself, and I was strong, and I trained myself how to fight as well as being naturally strong. And I'd been running and swimming since I was 6. So I was you know. I could move. There
was 3 of them, did you say?
At that point, there was 2. There was another guy, younger kid later on. At that point, there was 2 of them. And then I was king of the cell. So
you battered him and you're king of the cell?
Yeah. Then the next day, they brought in another. In fact, there was 2 other guys. Anyway, they brought in another guy, our age, the next day, who was tough. Yeah. So all of a sudden, I'm not king of the cell. Yeah.
Did he have to fight you for that? To get the crown?
No, he just had to get my shoes off me.
Oh, how did that happen?
I just gave them to him. Not that hard.
I thought it was going to be a big war story.
But then check
You
this.
just knew, did you? You just knew it was a no-winning situation.
They were all talking in patois, knowing that I couldn't really go into
Yeah.
deep patois,
Yeah.
so I couldn't understand what he was saying, and I could just get the gist. And
Yeah.
they were like, they were going, he's pretty hard, you know, and he's going, I'm pretty hard, you know, and there's three of us, and they're going, yeah, we'll have him, and then they're going, and he's going, them shoes is mine, you know, and then as soon as he start, then he turned back to me. I'm like, you have them, mate, and then I got them back. I got them back.
All right, first question. If you hand something over that easily,
Yeah.
then don't they try and take everything else off you? Because they think, all right, this guy, right, we can get everything off him now.
I think. Well, you know, I just wasn't having that. You know what? You've had enough, man. You've had enough. I ain't actually got no. I did pull my pockets out and go, look, and stood there looking pathetic with my pockets hanging out. Go, look, there's nothing in them pockets. I had money in my sock.
Yeah,
You didn't check my sock.
Yeah.
There's nothing in them pockets. You've got my shoes, and also as well, you know, maybe you are tough, but you know, you're probably gonna get hurt, man. If you all three of you, you've seen what I did to you two, man. Do you know what I mean? So just take the shoes, man. You know what I mean? But then the next day, there was three concrete bunks. All that was in there was concrete, and there was 3 concrete bunks sticking out the wall. Yeah. 2 on that side, 1 on that side, a little tiny shower nozzle at the back whereby a tiny trickle of tepid water comes out. And you try and get a wash, and you go like that and rub this bit of water and then come out smelling worse than when you went in there.
What about pissing and shitting?
Well, there's just a toilet open. You have to watch each other shitting.
There's a toilet
Open. No, not covered. Just a toilet. So shower there, toilet there, but nothing. It was all open.
What's the toilet look like?
It was just as far as I remember, just a concrete lav. But
Yeah,
like kind of like attached to like the floor and the wall.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it couldn't be ripped off or anything. It wasn't
Gotcha.
like it wasn't like a Royal Dalton that you could rip off the wall. Do you know what I mean? It's someone with it was just a concrete thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then the next day, when they came for me for court, I slept on the floor. I went, look, I'm outnumbered. So I woke up with like insect bites all over me.
Did you see the insects?
No, not that I remember. I just remember waking up and I was just, I went like that. Oh, what's that? And all these bites just turned into spots of blood. It's like, you know what I mean? Because as I say, I wasn't going to even, I'm out of here tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll sleep on the floor. You have me boots, I'll sleep on the floor. That's cool. But then when the guards came for me in the morning for court, it was just me going to court. So I got up, like, English boy, God. So I got up and I looked at the guy lying there on the bunk with my boots next to him. And I just went, you know what I mean? I just walked out, you know? Thinking, well, that's that. You know, what are you going to do? Like, you know? And then, oh, mate. And then I got in court.
Yeah.
In court, they say to me, so, because you're 16, we're going to have to write a juvenile report on you. And I'm going, what? And this court, my mum asked my brother to get the phone number. No, to get the fax number. Remember faxes?
Faxes, yeah.
To get the fax number.
Wow.
Leighton, get the fax. And my mum our kid was like, Mum, they don't even have a phone. He was phoning from the hotel. Mum, they haven't got a phone in the court, let alone a fax. Yeah? So, we're going to write a juvenile report, post it back to England, whereupon the English probation service will fill in the juvenile report, sign it, post it back to Jamaica. Until such a time as we receive that juvenile report back from England, yeah, we will have to, for the safety of you and law-abiding citizens of Jamaica, for having 3 spliffs in a ciggy box, we will have to keep you confined And like the sweat just, you go, what are they doing to me? What's going on here? What's this game? Yeah. So, and now I'm thinking also, when I walk out this courtroom, I'm going back in that police car. I'm going back to that cell where I just took me boots
Uh-oh.
Mate. And the funny thing...
Were you going over it in your head, what was going to happen?
Man, I'm dead, man. This is... So...
Did you say, well, I just borrowed them for court? I couldn't exactly go, but there you go.
And obviously I'm thinking, what I was really thinking as well, more so than that, is the dates they had set me for going into court was about 4 weeks after we were due to fly home. So this meant that now the rest of my stay in Jamaica, I was going to be banged up. But also for another few weeks after that, I was going to be banged up until I go to court. And what are they going to do then? Say some other crazy things to keep me there longer? Because I've had a few spliffs in a cigarette, but what is happening here?
You get a report sent from a foreign country. That's bureaucracy, weeks, months. Could take forever.
And the English embassy didn't care about me. I'll make that quite clear. The English embassy did nout.
Didn't get a visit?
No, not a visit. Nothing. Even though I had highly educated, professional parents in England who know people, contacting people every day, all day, not sleeping at night and working on it. I didn't get a single visit from the English embassy. The American embassy got me out. So we'll come back to that later, maybe. The American embassy, I don't know why. The American embassy made someone do something about it, but the English embassy didn't.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
But yeah, funnily, anyway, the boots thing, to end that story, was I went back to the cell. And this is a funny thing about, I bet you know this from being in prison. Mood and people's behaviour can change like that. And because it's such an extreme situation that you're in, you get these extreme swings of mood. And when I went back into the cell, it was almost like, at that moment I went back in there, the vibe that they were on was like, with that down vibe. You know, you get that moment, them times in prison where it's just like, everyone's just like...
Like Christmas Day.
There's just nothing.
Yeah.
And it was like they didn't even, like I say in the book, it was like they didn't even notice me and you know, weren't even aware that there was a white boy wearing some big red boots now in the cell with them. Really? It was like nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. Didn't even say anything.
Yeah.
And then they sometime after that, they got me and two other lads in a car, drove us into the mountains to this place called Cops, Place of Safety for Boys, which is where I ended up in the strong room, which is this underground dungeon.
Wow.
Now, Cops, makes me laugh. I researched Cops while writing the book, and even the Jamaican Gleaner, the Jamaican newspaper, visited there a few years after I was there and did a report on it about how bad it was there. And I'm like, even the Jamaicans think it's rough at Cops, you know what I mean? And even they didn't mention the strong room. I don't know if they just didn't show the journalists the strong room, but even they, in doing a report on the place and how bad it is, did not mention that they've got an underground dungeon where they keep people for punishment, where the toilets haven't flushed, it looks like forever, the taps don't run, so you can't, and you're in there 24/7, so you can't have a wash. You don't get any decent food. Twice a day they put in some tepid bottles of water and some buckets of mush, and you eat from whatever you've got, like a milk carton or whatever you can get hold of, you know, a bit of a plastic tub or whatever you've got. Eat with your hands, and guys are in there for months.
How'd you get your piss and shit out?
On top of the big pile of piss and shit in these unflushing toilets.
I remember in Arizona we had no running water for 3 days, so the mound of shit just rose above sea level. And we had a towel over the toilet, but it didn't stop the fucking smell. I mean, it was just raw sewage. And you had to sleep next to that.
Yeah. And in a hot country.
Yeah.
You know, so Jamaica's tropical. This is underground in a tropical country, you know.
Yeah.
It's like so anyway, it's a place where they punish people for fighting, trying to escape, that kind of thing.
So you're in with some lunatics.
And I guess for being a white boy.
So you're in with some lunatics then?
You know, there were 7 lads in there who were all from Kingston, and they were all really well dressed. Nice shirts, nice shiny shoes, nice pants. They were all in it together. They wouldn't tell anybody what they were there for, so everyone thought it was something really serious because they wouldn't talk about it. And they were nice, kept themselves, treated me okay. there was 3 younger lads who were just younger lads, just silly lads. There was one big, massive guy about maybe my age or older who was just, he was the object of ridicule. So one of the things he did every day was just think of an escape plot, which obviously never worked, but it's a way of passing the time. And one of the plots, it seemed regularly, was to beat this guy up till he was in so much pain he screamed. Then when the guards come, they rush the gate and try and get out. And he then, when I was there, he had to get taken out and taken to hospital, get his head bandaged up. And then that evening comes straight back to the strong room to be beaten up again, you know. And then there was these 3 guys who had the top bunks over there where you could see through these little gaps in the bricks into this room on the other side where there was a telly the guards sometimes watched. So that was why that was his top bunk. That was the top bunk in the room. And his 2 friends, they were the ones who thought they were hard. And they were the ones who went at it, decided, we'll have you. So, you know, all the then give us your shoes.
To you?
Yeah.
So as you're going in then, you're seeing this layout that you've just described. Who approaches you first? So, a young lad went in before me. I call him Puppy in the book. He was about, I'd say 14, 15. He'd come from Barnet Street with me. So they went at him. You know what? It was like there was only one of them that had eyes on me, which I figured out later that he'd actually been partly raised in Manchester, and maybe that's why he had eyes on me. Because to the rest of them, it felt like, and again, I wouldn't have said it like this at the time, but looking back on it, it was almost like I was too weird to be real. Yeah.
It's just like they just like looked through me, like I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And there was this younger kid, the 2 younger kids went in there with me, one had a big burn on his neck. They'd burnt him on the neck in the strong room with a burning stick.
What? The prisoners had done?
Eh?
The prisoners had burnt his neck?
Yeah. A big thing, and that's why when he got out the strong room, he then ran away from cops, and they caught him and took him back to the cops, back into the strong room, and he just went and like made a hammock. There was all the bunk beds with these rusted things, and there's only like most of them had like a rusted underside, which like is so rusted through you couldn't even lie on it because it'd just fall through.
Yeah.
So he made a hammock with a sheet on one of these bunks, and they just ignored him. It's like, oh, do you know who he is? Yeah. And they looked straight through me. And this other kid, they started going to work on him, these 3 lads. So it was, get up on our bed, waft us with a sheet, you're our slave now, you know, you're our servants, you waft us, you know, you serve us kind of thing, blah, 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 whatever. And then he was crying and everything, you know what I mean? He was real scared. They pushed him off the bunk in the end. And eventually, this one guy who was onto me was just like, what you looking at? Kind of, you know what I mean? I was like, I'm not. Because I was just stood there in the middle of the aisle to go, what happens now? Like, I just stand here all day, do I, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was, now he thinks he's tough, so you've got to get up and waft us. So I get up on the bunk bed and I waft. I'm like, you know, he's like giggling. Like, man, why you bumba laugh at? You know, I was like, I can't waft you, man. You know, it's just daft. And so, okay, you think it's too English boy, think him too tough to waft us, you know. Think him too tough to be our white boy slave, so you have to fight us then. So where's the game?
Uh-oh.
So get down, stand in the aisle between the bunks, okay, and there's one light bulb in the room. Right next to this really badly drawn picture of a gun and the words room of death. Room of death. Who came up with that? Poetic. And there's one light bulb. There's one light bulb, yeah? And it's like there's a break in the wire. So these 3 kids now are arguing over who gets the prime position by the wire for the game.
Yeah.
The light and dark game. I call it in the book, the light and dark game. Every time they disconnect the wire and the light goes out, one of these 2 guys, the top guy stayed on his bunk, but one of his 2, mates attacks me. And then when the light goes on, they pull back, and that's the game. You know what I mean?
Holy shit, man.
So I've got my lip bust, and I got a couple of cracks in on a couple of times, and it's going back and forth. And then the guy on the top bunk, he went under his mattress and he pulled out a big, thick stick and passed it down to one of his boys.
Not the burning stick.
Not the burning. Well, it might have been the same stick, I don't know, but it was a big stick. And so I'm like, your brain just goes... Yeah. It kind of like almost like your conscious mind like shuts down and you go into pure survival mode. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy, the lights went out, he came for me, and there was no thought to it. As you know, in a violent situation, a conflagration, there's no thinking about it, it just happens. But I knew kickboxing and stuff, and my foot just flew up as he came to me, and my foot just flew in front of me and connected with his chest. And he like flew.
Yes!
Honestly. Oh, this is only, it doesn't end well, Shaun. It doesn't end well. Anyway.
I thought you were going to say, he knocked me out right away. You sent him, man, flying.
Oh, fly, honestly. And then, weirdly, what I did then, he's on his arse, sliding across the deck. I then kicked off me big red boots. Again, no thinking to it. This is pure, monkey man mode. You know what I mean? Pure survival, pure limbic system, fight or flight. Boom, boom. I don't know why. Kicked off these boots that everyone wanted, so they flew across the room. Yeah? And then jumped over the guy and started pounding him in the face. And I saw out the corner of my eye his big lanky friend grab the stick. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'll have to deal with that in a sec, And to my memory, just at the moment that I thought, deal with that, now is when it went boom across the back of my head, And I stood up and staggered back, and then just like, and he swung for me again, just as I went, boom, and it kind of missed me because I was just falling on my arse. And he came for me, and these Kingston dudes behind me just went, it's enough. No, that's enough. You've had your fun, he's proved himself. Leave him alone. So these guys thought they were the top guys, but you can't do anything against these Kingston guys, man.
Yeah.
They're just letting you sit there, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then there was a big, underneath the room of death sign and the light bulb was a big steel door with like a big letterbox thing in it. And there was guys looking through that as all this was happening, shouting, oh, fuck up the white man was one of the things happening, fuck up the white man and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But then it was like, as soon as this kick happened, it was like, oh, white man tough, white man, him kick like Van Damme and all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And then, so then, it was now, I'd been beaten, but I had respect.
Yeah, you showed heart.
I stood up for myself.
Yeah.
And the guys on the other side, this is where the dormitory is on the other side of this. Well, there's this room, and then above that, there's a dormitory area. They went and fetched me a mattress, a sponge mattress that stank of urine, but it was a mattress, and a sheet, a once white sheet that stunk of urine as well, but it was a sheet, and they passed it through. And and I had like half a bunk because the part of it was too rusted to do anything with, and the mattress ripped in half as it was coming through. So I gave half of it to this young kid who slept next to me, who'd let me sleep on the floor, back in Parnett Street, but never mind, and engaged in trying to bully me with these other two guys. But it's fair enough. You have that bit of mattress, man. Now he was scared and crying and everything. You know what I mean? And so what bit do you want me to tell next, Shaun?
You are brilliant at describing things. Just don't cut it short. Just keep going. Okay. Exactly what happens next, just moment by moment. Well, yeah, I'm absolutely gripped.
Okay, a couple of days later, I got a visit. Now, it had taken my brother, who in the book I've changed the brother's character. I don't want to talk about people who are. I have no right to talk about other people. I'll be as honest. People call this book brutal, visceral, because it's so honest. I say the things that you're only meant to think and not say out loud. Yeah. But I don't mind doing that about me, but I won't do that about other people. So the other people are kind of amalgamations. So the character Increase in the book is my cousin, and he's made up of amalgamation of various different characters. Yeah. But in the real life story, it was my brother. And they wouldn't tell him, the court wouldn't tell him where I was. And it took him a few days just to find out where I was. And then he had to get someone to take him there, into the mountains, to this place. And then I think what he did was bribe the guards, and they let me out of the strong room. And I was then in, cops proper, if you like, in the dormitory. And immediately, I'd seen this guy as I was walking in. There was this tall... The only photograph I've got in there was taken from the back of a taxi one day my brother had turned up and just taken a quick photograph of me and this other lad, who they called Tallest. Everyone in Jamaica's got a nickname that refers to something about the character or the way they look. He was tall, so he was called Tallest. Okay. In the book, I call him Shepherd, because he was a shepherd. He was an angel. Tall, beautiful guy. And straight away, you know, you have like a spark with people.
Yeah. Especially
in extreme situations. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That kind of building a friendship thing happens like that.
Yeah.
You just know. Because again, you're reacting to situations, you're interacting with people from that deeper, that more, what's the right word? Primal.
Yes.
Aspect of yourself.
Yes.
It's like people describe being in the war, First World War, and running across no man's land and just diving because they just knew a bullet was coming that way. And they couldn't hear it, they couldn't see it, but you just know, instinct. That's the way you are, isn't it, in these extreme situations?
Heightened senses, animalistic.
Heightened sensitivity. And that also happens with regards to empathy and love. It's not just the negative stuff. So anyway, me and this guy, we just clicked, and he was the toughest guy in there. I never saw him hit anyone. He used to walk around with this big stick and he'd move the younger kids with it. Move, man, move, you know. But I never saw him hit anyone or threaten anyone or bully anyone. Yet, he was the toughest, most respected person there. But he was just a beautiful guy.
When you say clicked, what was your initial conversation with him?
So him and a bunch of his mates had all approached me as they were leading me to the strong room. So obviously everyone's running to see the new people and the white, oh my God, white boy, this little kid, white boy, white man, beg you $2, white man. That was one of the things, beg you $2, you know, give me $2. Beg you $2, white man. And he was just at the front, like moving these, like Moses parting the Red Sea with this stick, you know what I mean? Like, parting his kids, and just looked at me. And everyone else was looking at me in different ways, a bit aggressive or maybe, you know, inquisitively or whatever. And he was just like, and as soon as I got out of there, he just put his arm around me and led me into the dormitory. Wow. And he sat me down on his bunk, and now it was quite clean in there, you know, and there's all these actually white sheets, you know, and he sat me down on his bunk, and he sent a couple of the lads to go and get a sheet and a mattress and a pillow for me off someone else. Wow. They went over to another one of the older lads, battered him, took his stuff, put it on the bunk next to Tallest's bunk, and then he got a younger kid to make me bed for me. Wow. And then he said, you know, if you have any money, maybe we could, you know, you could give something to they go to the shop, we have some little biscuits celebration. I was like, yeah, go on. As it so happens, I've got some. Oh, you keep it in your sock, rude boy. I was like, yeah. And I was like, what I've got's yours. I'm adding nothing now. You know, you're my angel. He's like, no, it's yours. We don't want your money, but just maybe give him $20 and go to the shop. Because the little kid went to the shop, got some biscuits, some bag juice. Bag juice is a thing they have in Jamaica. Some juice in a bag. They got a load of bag juice, biscuits, cakes, whatnot, and we had a bit of a feast. And that was it. From then on, I was on the bunk next to Tallest's bunk. And he looked after me. A couple of the lads went out the gates up to the mountain. I gave them some money. They went and bought some weed off a raster at the top of the mountain. We sat in a tree and we smoked and we laughed and they asked me funny questions about... just read the book, folks. I don't even want to go into the questions they asked me. It's probably maybe offensive for saying it on camera. But yeah, we had great conversations about girls and England and money and whatnot. And I had a bunch of friends. That was that. And we had a laugh. And then not so long, maybe a week after that, it was my birthday. I was sat on a wall one day, and I said to one, so what day is it today? And he was like, oh, whatever it was Thursday or whatever. And I said, oh, you know, it's my birthday tomorrow. And he went, true. And Tallest was sat here, just after this other guy, Scarecrow. And he said, it's Tallest's birthday tomorrow too, you know. I was like, is it your birthday tomorrow? I said, yeah, man. I said, how old are you? He said, I'm 17. I said, shit. I said, I'm 17 tomorrow as well.
Wow.
So when would you... I said, I was born at 10 past 10. Me too, you know. I said, what? And so we went for a celebration. Some of the guys, again, they went and got some chicken and they nicked some plantain from a nearby field and they made some dumpling and made some jerk chicken and got some beer and we had a feast and they nicked some pans from the kitchens and we had a feast and a party and we got in trouble because we left beer and spliffs and nicked pans all over the place and we got in trouble the next day and we were like, you know what, let's let them worry about cleaning it up. Maybe we should give them some space and go for a swim in the river. Yeah, so you just wander out of cops. You just wander out there. The guys were just like some guys in scruffy jeans and Hawaii t-shirts, you know what I mean, with sticks, bullying little kids. But, you know, they weren't you know, guards. They were just, you know, some dudes. So we just wandered out of there. Went down to this river. And now, two of the lads, tallest, this beautiful angel, who looked after me, because nobody else could bully me now or anything because he was my best friend. And everyone knew. It was like straight away, boom, it's them two. It's Tallest and White Boy, you know. So Tallest was swimming. There was lads washing in the river, having a laugh, pushing each other in, splashing each other. Tallest and another guy. I call him Red Douglas in the book. I'm trying not to use people's real names just out of respect. Anyway, Tallest and Douglas, they were having a race, swimming. And I was a good swimmer. Been swimming since I was 6, as I mentioned. And they were trying to get me to go in and have a swim. And I was like, no, I've got these big holes in my leg. I'm not getting in like a foreign river with big, you know what I mean? I also had a big hole in my back there as well, you know, and in my fingers with all still slashed. No. So, okay, but I was looking thinking, I'd smash them in a race, you know, I'd well beat them, but it's okay, I'll just sit here and watch, you know, have a smoke and whatever, chillax, you know. And then, one after the other, as I'm watching them swim, the two of them, they just went, under the water. No splashing, just dead calm. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking like, I'm thinking, are they going to pop up under the trees over there or something? Are they having a bit of a laugh? Or they weren't the kind of like have a practical joke type people, you know? But I was like, what's going on? Like, this is not there, you know? And eventually, one of the guys, Ganja Baby, he got out. They all got funny names, you know. One of them got out and they were like shouting up at me, going, "Where'd them go? Where'd Silas go? Where them?" And I'm just sat there, heat in my eyes, you know, heat pumping up from my chest. Like, I don't know. Where? And then they're walking up and down the riverbank, shouting the names. Where'd them go, man? Where'd them go? Looking at me like, how the fuck am I supposed to know where they are? I don't know. They went like that. They disappeared, mate. I don't know. And eventually, we decided, you know, to walk back to cops. And there was these two old guys sat on the veranda of this old wooden house, drinking Red Stripe, smoking cigarettes, you know. And they'd watched us walk down there, you know. And one of them said to us, "You lose your friends?" And the guys go, yeah, you see them? And this dude goes, "Them dead, man. Enough man drown in that river, you know. It'd have a spinning undercurrent." And like, when we got back to cops and we told them what had happened, there was one female member of staff who seemed to be like kind of in charge. And she said to us, "Well, you see what happened when you break the rules."
Holy shit.
That was all she said about it. And about 2 days later, I had my first visit from this guy who worked for the American Embassy, who also, as it happened, owned our hotel and didn't want to help us. I don't think he liked us. pretty much he hated us. But the American Embassy forced him to do something. Not the English Embassy, the Americans. I don't know why. And
had your brother contacted someone or something?
Obviously, you know, he was in the hotel that this guy owned and stuff, you know, and so and he was in contact with my mum and dad, and they were phoning around like crazy and whatnot. But I mean, mum and dad were getting in touch with the American Embassy and the English Embassy and the Jamaicans and anyone that my dad knew in Jamaica. And but what happened was the American Embassy went, "You go and do something about that."
Wow.
So he was visiting me on the day that they found the bodies downstream, and a load of the lads and the younger kids all went down to have a look at them. And they came back and told me they were kind of bloated and blue. And from then on, also, the main thing that was then said to me was, a tireless duppy with the white man. Duppy means ghost. And it wasn't, they weren't saying that in a nice way. It was kind of like a frightening thing. Stay away from him because the duppy's with him, you know. And you know, obviously thinking through this for years and years and years and writing down the story in kind of chronological order a number of times over the many, many years it took me to write the book, I've got this idea, what at least to my memory, this was a long time ago, you know, memory's very frail, isn't it? But, you know, to my memory, I've got this chronological order of events, and from that point on, it's like a mess. It's like a blur. You know what I mean? A blur of, remember that bit? And I know new lads came, and then there was all this new thing that they're trying to establish themselves now, and there's no tallest now, so who's the main guy now? And there's a white boy, and now they want me boots and want to harass me and see if I've got, and they want to spit at me and call me white man or say whatever, because now I'm like a loon. I'm like, boom.
With Tallest gone, did his protection not carry forward then? Did it end when he ended?
You know, the other boys who had been mine and Tallest's friends liked me, and they were nice to me, you know. But I didn't really have that spark with them. And then and honestly, I cannot remember any of these new faces or exactly what they said and did. I just know it was like there was stuff going on, and there was a lot of this duppies with the white man and white man give me your boots and, you know, all this new kind of like negativity. But I was like, and it must have been like, I must have seemed like a madman because I was like, just, I'm not talking to you. I'm not scared of you. I'm not giving you anything. Just, I can't even remember where I was sleeping at that time. You know, like, I must have still been in that same bunk next to where Tallest had been sleeping. But I actually have no fixed, clear, chronological memory of the days after that.
Do you think you were in shock?
I must have been, like a PTSD, you know.
Yeah.
So, this guy who owned our hotel, he came to visit me 3 times, and eventually got me back into family court. And he had to sign for my bail. And then keep me in the country. Now, remember now that he's signed for my bail, he's got my passport and flight pass in his safe in the hotel. Like, he used to put, like, and traveller's checks, remember them, yeah? And you put them in, like, a brown envelope, and you sign over the sign of the envelope, you know, so no one, and they're in his safe, and he wants to keep me in the country, and he's signed for my bail, and I'm in his hotel. And I'm thinking, no fucking way are we staying in the country. We're getting on that fucking flight. Yeah? Now, fortunately, where people... I have a way of telling what happened in the book that isn't actually the way it happened. And I won't even say exactly how it happened. Even though it was a long time ago. I'm not going to implicate anybody else.
Of course, yeah.
But we got our shit. And we got out of there.
You cracked the safe and nobody else was involved, of course.
Of course. And we got to the airport. We had to sneak out the hotel. We had to set up a whole thing to get us out of there without anyone seeing us. And we got to the airport and we got into the, you know what, this is fucking so stupid. Lads are dickheads, aren't they? We got to the airport and honestly, we'd now, by this time, by the way, we'd hired out a moped. We had like about 3 days left in Jamaica before we had to make a plan for getting the fuck out of Jamaica because that was when our flight was due, okay? So what we did was got on a moped and drove 5.5 hours. It took us about from Mo Bay right across the top of Jamaica and then down to Kingston to go to the Reggae Sunsplash Festival. on this rev and rip. This proper Yamaha rev and rip. The only just about got us there and then broke down. We had to get it fixed. And then it had no keys because the guy fixed it but lost the keys. And then just about got us back to Mo Bay. And then we had to escape from the country. And then we did manage to kind of escape. Got to the airport. And then remembered there's an airport tax in Mo Bay. It's only like $5 or something. But we had no money left. Lads and dickheads. We're like, shit. We can't get in the terminal. Someone gave us some money. We got in the terminal. And
how did you get the money?
A couple of girls from Manchester helped us out.
Sweet.
Just went. And we were stinking now. We must have looked like maniacs. You know, we'd been through this experience. We were skinny, drained, stinking. You know, it was just like wide-eyed monsters. And anyway, the answer's out. So we got into the terminal. And then we sat there while our flight was delayed for 4 hours. And I was just sat like that. And at one point, like a few hours, like 4 hours into this, like, God, we've had it. This is. Our kid just went, Ash, come! And I didn't even look up, just went, Poof. And we'd left nearly everything in the hotel room, including, like, you know, anyway, some insults for the hotel owner. Anyway, so we never had much with us. And we ran into this wine store, you know, duty free, and hiding behind the shelves of wine. Like, they're here. The owner of the hotel is here with a policeman. And you can't just walk into an airport terminal, even if you're the police. But this is Jamaica. And I didn't see them. But apparently, they're there looking for us. And apparently, they'd looked. I didn't see it because I had my head down. But apparently, they'd looked right over us. Like that. And we'd be like, so what? Okay, so we have no choice. There's some people going up them steps, up them stairs, and along that corridor. We leg it, mingle in with them, get up the stairs, go along that corridor, follow wherever they're going. So, right, just go. Boom, we did that. Okay, we're up the stairs, we're along the corridor, we've got the flight attendants, we've got our flight passes, we're showing them to these girls, going, this isn't even our plane. We're just going, you know what I mean? Just desperate, like, And they go, okay, down that way. And we're like, really? They're just letting us on the plane? This isn't our flight, you know what I mean? So we're walking down the corridor, the flight corridor, like, I'm like, show them to the flight attendants on the plane. Like, oh yeah, you're on that seat in that aisle. Like, we're the only people in this airport that didn't hear them call it, because we must have been that zoned. We didn't know it was this was the Manchester flight. This was our flight. And then, honestly, and then the flight was delayed for an hour.
No! What's going through your head?
I'm dead. So they said, you know, apparently somebody had stole the bag on the plane and they didn't know who it was. There was no owner, so they had to find out who was the owner of this bag.
Yeah.
And I sat there for an hour going like this, you know, the seat's like this high. And I was in the aisle seat. I sat there for an hour going, sweating, with eyes like golf balls going. Just waiting to see them walk on the plane.
Yeah.
And my brother's saying, Ash, honestly, I said, I've never been so scared in my life, but trust me. For one, you can't, I know they were in the but you can't just walk on a plane. You can't, even if you're the police. For two, once this plane's in the air, they can't do anything at Manchester. And three, you look really on top. You're making us really on top, lad. I know, all right. And then anyway, the plane did take off. We got back to Manchester, and then check this, you know, just to kind of top off the whole, like, this story. The way I've written the story is an exploration of many things, but one of the things we're exploring is racism, racial dualism, polarity. This black and white way of looking at categorizing human beings. It's a pseudoscience. It's not real. It was invented by the European empires as a way of enslaving and then eventually colonizing people and taking whatever gold and minerals and whatever else they could find in the workforce from the Americas and the African, and also further east in India and whatnot. They invented this system, a hierarchy that puts them at the top and black people at the bottom. Okay, it's not a real. There's no science behind that form of categorization. Okay, now particularly with genetics, but we have this system, and it's so deeply ingrained. It's been a 500-year process of ingraining, indoctrinating us all with this system. And us as black and brown mixed race people, we have it in us as well. We are not immune to the same nonsense, crime watch news at 10, history books, and so on, movies where all heroes are white. We grew up with the same stuff in the same country, and we get to be a certain age, usually getting out of our evil. You got your baby, then you have a childhood, and then you go to be a teenager, and you develop you go through your id phase, your ego phase, your super ego phase, and now you're an adult before you even, for most of us, start thinking about it and going, hang on a minute, what's really going on here? And then re-educating yourself, okay? So we have this system ingrained in us as well. It's almost like we are, if you like, as racist in a kind of subtle way, in a deep way, you know, as everybody else. Because why wouldn't we be? Because we grew up in the same racist, stupid system, you understand? So, just to top off this whole story of racial dualism, this whole thing, this black lad, this N-word, all this stuff, go to Jamaica, it's all white boy this, white boy that. So what happens as soon as you land in Manchester? Okay, so, again, everybody they searched coming off that flight from Jamaica in Manchester was young, black and male. No women, no older people, no white people. Okay? The only person they found with anything was a guy, just the most obvious drug dealer ever. Just the most shady looking dude. He looked kind of Cuban, even the way he was dressed and everything, and the trilby and everything. And he had a suitcase full of weed, not even a towel over the top of it, just like big stacks of weed. We saw them open and go, oh, right, so that's like a lot of weed then, yeah? You're next, you know. And then after he'd gone and everyone had passed through, they kept me and my brother there for ages, questioning us. And one of the only things I took back with me was like a rasta, like a wooden carving of a rasta head. And they drilled holes in it looking for the drugs. And now, remember, my mum and my sister, they'd given up. They're going, well, obviously they're not on the flight. But my mum's going, I'm staying here all day. I'll be here all week. They are bringing my sons through that gate, you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, and the way I kind of top it off in the book is just like, you know, looking at each other and saying, well, at least now we know I'm a N-word again. You know, at least that. At least I know where to stand in this racial hierarchy once again. Oh God!
Wow, what a story, man!
And that's the short version.
Just absolutely blown away. So, they did let you through the gate to your mum.
Eventually.
How was that, giving your mum a hug?
It's a vague memory, to be honest.
Is it?
It's a vague memory, yeah. I remember getting back to my mum's house very clearly. And, yeah, phoning the owner of the hotel. Well, I didn't phone. I didn't have that kind of confidence then. You know, my brother was as you know, was an incredibly intelligent, charismatic, funny guy, and he actually phoned the owner of the hotel because this guy, again, it goes into more detail, but this guy had tried to keep us there. He tried to bully us. He tried to keep us on a curfew. When we hired that moped and drove to Kingston, we were on a 10 o'clock curfew. And then he didn't see us for 2 days. You know what I mean? So this guy, you know, we you know, even though I was out because of this guy, but he'd been made to do that. And he had no love for us. So my brother phoned him to tell him we were back in England and, you know,
So was he pissed off because he was going to lose his bail money? Was that one of the things?
Me dad, being a very, you know, sensible, well-to-do kind of professional guy, sent him the money.
Really? How much was that?
It was 2,000 Jamaican dollars, which at the time was only in England. It was about 60 odd quid in English money.
60 quid, okay.
But that's a lot of money in Jamaica.
Yeah,
You have to understand, in a third world country where at the time there was about 43 Jamaican dollars to £1. I believe, from speaking to Jamaicans recently, that there is the economy has been in total turmoil ever since, and there's even more Jamaican dollars to an English pound now. The economy has tanked, but even $43 to a pound is like, so it's like monopoly money.
So did the hotel owner get sweated then by the authorities in Jamaica?
Well, I guess he had, you know, he had a high standing in the community, you know. So I guess he will have been okay. Who knows what happened to him? It will have been embarrassing for him. But I gather that's it.
Yeah. So you're back in the country. Are you banned then? You can't go back to Jamaica?
I really want to go back to Jamaica. But obviously I can't really risk that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I gather with there being, you know, with there being not even a fax machine or a phone in the court at the time, I gather maybe the record they kept at those times wasn't very good.
Yeah.
This even before record keeping was so good anywhere. You know, we didn't have all these computer systems and emails and all this kind of, you know what I mean? So, is there any bit of paper that has my name on it that says this guy skipped bail, or I don't know. But I'm not going to risk it. What I need to do now is be honest about it, and hopefully at one point I can approach the Jamaican authorities and say, I really, really want to come back to Jamaica. Look, I had this experience, but I am part Jamaican. I love Jamaica. I love Jamaican people and Jamaican culture. I want to be part of this culture. I'd love to help. I work with young people in the community. I work in schools. I work in prisons and help people to turn their lives round. I've had a lot of experiences that have really, really benefit people, and I'd like this book and my story and my experience to benefit Jamaica. I just need to know that I'm safe to come back, so we can bring this this message that I now have to Jamaica. So just tell me I'm cool, you know. But maybe when if the book becomes more prominent, if I maybe get taken on by bigger establishments, you know, then maybe the authorities will take me seriously and I can get back there. That's my hope. But so far, obviously, I'm not going to risk it.
And for people watching this, then, all your links are going to be in the description box below this video.
Okay.
So you can just click down there and get that. So going into prisons then, how did you establish that? How does your message resonate with the prisoners?
Well, yeah, they love it. So you can imagine, can't you? One thing I also do is, okay, shall I tell you briefly how things started to change for me?
Yes, please.
How I became kind of the person I am now.
Yeah,
doing
absolutely.
From being just a scally.
Yeah.
Because after that, you know, there's a thing called a self-fulfilling prophecy, which means that, like, your community or society prophesizes who you shall be, and you then take that on and fulfill that prophecy yourself. Yeah? So it's almost like I say to the prisoners, you know, someone knocks on your door and goes, thou shalt be dickhead. And you go, yeah, dickhead, I'm a dickhead, yeah. And, you know, and you become that person. So they treated me like a criminal. They treated me like someone who wasn't worthy of being, who wasn't, shall we say, academic, because I had the ADHD, so I can't fit into your schools. So I became someone who, I think I'm not intelligent. I think I'm expected to be tough. I think you expect me to be some kind of drug dealer and nutter. You expect me to, like, to walk differently to you and to talk differently to you. You think I'm different. So I take on this identity. And then after Jamaica, I just carried on going, you know, so I was fighting every weekend. We had a business in Widnes where you opened for a few years, where we just had a terrible reputation, fighting every weekend. I got arrested nearly exactly a year after getting stabbed in Jamaica. I was arrested outside top of the town in Widnes with a long-bladed kitchen knife trying to attack someone, you know. So people talk about, why do people get into criminal activity? Why do people carry knives? I know why people carry knives. I know exactly why you get into that kind of activity, because we all want the same things out of life. We all want to be accepted as part of a group, some kind of community. And if we don't feel part of our community, we'll find a community that we do feel part of, even if that's just a gang of mates acting hard. And indeed, acting hard gives you the other thing you want, which is to be known for being good at something. And if you're taught that you're not intelligent, or you're not worthy of fitting into and you don't want to do the other thing people are doing and go on some office job because you've got ADHD and you can't sit there at a computer doing that. You just can't. You'll crack up. So, well, being hard, cracking heads in a pub of a weekend, well, that's something you're good at. That'll do. You understand? Selling drugs, making money, having a reputation, well, there's something you're good at. So you become this thing because you want the same things. You only want the same things a doctor, dentist or nurse or teacher wants. But you've got these other ways of attaining those things. But obviously those things are short term. Because getting those things in that way will lead to problems. You will find yourself in violent confrontations. You might find yourself injured or dead. You might have your freedoms curtailed. You might find yourself addicted to something and very, very ill. You understand? Yeah. You'll find yourself the shame of your family, and that's not fitting in. That's not being a part of something. So it doesn't last. It's short term. You can be on steads, dead hard. Are you going to be taking steroids, acting dead hard and copping off with girls every weekend when you're 60, 70, 80 years old? Some people try, and we all know what you all think of them people, folks. Yeah? So it's not going to last. So this is what we do in prisons. We talk people through that experience. I understand exactly what it is, what mentality it is, what kind of behaviours it is, what way of thinking, which leads to the way that you feel, which leads to what you do. What is that cycle that winds you up in this kind of situation like being in prison? And even though at the moment you might be thinking, well, I don't care. I don't give a shit about the authorities. I don't care if I'm in prison. I'm just going to sell drugs. I'm dead hard. So what? I've got a fit girlfriend. All this crap. Okay, how long is that going to last? Is this really what you want? Because ask yourself, really, what you want out of life. You want the same as everybody else. You want to live a long, healthy, happy life. And that shit that you're doing now is not going to last. So what are you going to do that is going to last to attain those things that everybody wants? What are you going to do? And that kind of really kind of gives people a penny drop moment very, very often. Because not only that, we also explain what are those things that you can do to understand how your mind works, why you see the world the way you do, how you can change that. If you look at, we've got neuroscience and all that kind of stuff, and psychology and psychotherapy and cognitive behavioural therapy and NLP and transactional analysis. We've got all these. Every day we're learning more about how the brain works, how to control your own mind and emotions, and therefore what you're doing. And also your interaction with others, how that works and how to get the most out of it. We're so good at understanding this now. There's no excuse for anybody. It's all over the internet. There's video. Even if you can't read, get on YouTube. It's everywhere, okay? And it genuinely works. There are really simple techniques. Because what's happening here, it's like is it Stephen Peters, who trained Liverpool FC and wrote the chimp paradox? Okay, he's got a really simple way of looking at it. That kind of that primal, that primitive, early human brain, the animal bit of us that just does all it does is the fight or flight bit, fight, flight or freeze to keep you alive, and that's not a bad thing. Like nerves are not a bad thing. They're there to help you to keep you alive. Okay. But what happens is, when we lived out there and we had the saber-toothed tigers or the short-faced bear or whatever, yeah, we had to be able to fight or flight real quick, boom, do the thing. And then you spend the rest of your time chilling out, okay? So you use one part of the central nervous system, okay, called the sympathetic nervous system to do fight or flight. But then what's meant to happen is you use the other part of the central nervous system, parasympathetic, to do the other stuff. Feed, breathe, rest, digest. Nobody ever talks about those, did they? No. Funny, we've all heard of fight and flight. But people who lived in small communities, nomadic communities, that kind of thing, they wouldn't have been doing that very regularly. You're not constantly under attack. You're not constantly hunting. You're spending most of your time chilling out. Okay? So, we need to learn how... But what happens nowadays is we get these, this reaction to what we call, like social stress. So just being in there, oh, what will Shaun think of me? Oh, no, is this going well? What will they out there? Am I doing well enough? Oh, hang on, is this bus late? Oh, I wonder if my wife thinks that I did that. Oh, I wonder, hang on, the kids? Oh, my God, I'm meant to be home educating the kids. Oh, I don't even know, what is this? Algebra, I don't understand algebra. What the hell is algebra? What do you call it? A fronted adverbial? What the fuck's a fronted adverbial, you know, and what, you're getting into fight or flight over nothing. It doesn't matter what a fronted adverbial is or if the bus is late. It don't matter. So we're kind of in that fight or flight constantly and in stress. Now, you've got this part of your brain called the parietal lobe. I think I've pronounced that correctly. I see these things written down. I'm not an expert, but yeah. But it's like the computer in the brain, and what's in there is kind of your worldview, and you can put anything you like in there. So if you change your worldview, as in the world is kind of a happy place, it's a decent place, most people are nice, people tend to like me, I'm good at what I do, people want to help me, for example, okay, then what happens when you get into a situation is this prime, or what Professor Stephen Peters calls the chimp in your brain, this primitive bit of your brain, deep inside your brain, the limbic system, okay? This reacts 5 times quicker than the kind of the prefrontal cortex and the neocortex, the human bit, the bit that does the logic, okay? So the illogical stuff happens 5 times faster than the logical stuff. But that only sees in black and white. It only sees fight. It doesn't see nuance. It doesn't think, oh, well, maybe this or maybe... All it knows is stay alive. Because if you live outdoors and you see the grass move and there might be a snake in the grass, you haven't got time for thinking, could be a snake or it could just be the breeze. Oh, I'm dead. You understand? So it keeps you alive. But we don't need to be spending our time in fight or flight in this society where we ain't got any poisonous snakes. There ain't no saber-toothed tigers or short-faced bears. And if you live quite a sensible life and don't put yourself in stupid places around stupid people, you're not getting attacked on a regular basis. Unless you live in a war zone. But even then, you have the choice. So anyway, you have simple techniques for how to change your map of the world, change what's in that computer, okay? Because your logical brain will look to the chimp for what to do. It'll also look to the computer and go, how do we think the world is? How do I think I need to respond? And then if your mind changes, your emotional response will be different. And then your physical response will be different. And anything you do with any of them will change the other one. So if you want to change what's happening with your mental response and your emotional response, then change your physical response. This is why people like Professor Stephen Peters teach footballers to never do this. If they're losing. Yeah, don't do that shit. Yeah. Obviously, you can't be doing this. Hey! If you're losing. You never see Usain Bolt wander onto the track out there. I might win, but you know that Blake fella, he's good as well, isn't he? So I don't know, I might win. No, he's just like, I'll tell you what, there's a reason, you understand? So I believe there's like a Blackburn FC, maybe it is one of these dudes, someone like Stephen Peters, another one of these dudes who understands how to control your mind and emotions. He's taught them that if they're losing, they're not allowed to do this, but they can do this. Because that's not stupid. It's not going, yay, we're losing. But it's kind of like keeping your body upright. And it's telling the body, nah, we're still in action here. We can still have this. You understand?
Physical changes the mental.
So anyway, there's real simple techniques for staying calm, communicating clearly, getting the most out of interactions with other people, reducing stress, getting a good night's sleep, and so on and so on. And it's not complex. It takes work and effort, and it's a lifelong path. But it's easy to understand. It's easy to understand. Anyone can understand the IT system, my kids. So obviously when we teach this in prisons, because we can start by talking about these stories whereby people in prison will connect with us and they get on a level with us. Go, yes, man, you know you know the kind of places I've been, the things I've seen. You've been there yourself, but also you've now got this other way of being, and you're not telling me that you're ashamed of that either. You're just telling me, come on, stay there if you want, carry on with that shit. I don't care. I don't care what you're doing, do I? Why would I care? But if you really want to get the most out of life, I can show you some techniques, man. I can just, not that I'm your guru, but I can open a door and go, look, have a look in there, mate. Have a look in that library. It's all there. So obviously, they love it. That was a long-winded way of asking your very simple question of how do they respond, doesn't it? But they love it.
No, that was really good. Like I said, we like long answers. So when I was in Arizona prison then, CBT was one of the things that we did. Mm. Was it Epictetus? We're disturbed not by things that happen around us, but by our interpretations of them. Our thoughts is what determines it, and we can control that.
Exactly.
So you see people like picking on people, and they react, and then they get picked on the most. Yes. but you can choose not to engage with that. I mean, you get that emotional reaction. It's you have to put a circuit break in your brain, really, don't you?
Because that's why
to stop the engagement, to get out of that situation.
Yeah, because the fight or flight thing happens 5 times faster than logical thought.
Yeah.
So that happens first. But then you have the option to go, that's happened. And I'm not going to say, oh, that's terrible, push it away. No, I'm just going to look at it and go, so now what do I do? What do I do with the logic? There's different parts of the brain that are doing this.
Yeah.
So now you use the prefrontal lobe. You can actually picture it, go, this bit now needs to talk to that bit. And go, what do I want to do with it? I know I've just gone into fight or flight. I've just panicked. My heart's just gone like that. But now, what am I going to do? Well, I'd like to stop my heart going like that.
Yeah.
So how do I do that? I can think. It's okay. It's all right. I can breathe deeply. If you do just one long breath, your heart will already be going slower. And you'll already feel, as I do now, more relaxed.
Yeah.
It's like nerves is a real simple way to explain it. We all know how nervousness feels. But what's happening when you're nervous in your brain and in your body is the exact same thing as it's happening when you're excited. So if you're nervous about doing an interview or going on stage, and plenty, this has been tested over and over again in studies, if you just say to yourself, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. And even just saying that, you can see my face, like just saying those words, I'm excited, makes you feel happy and excited. And now you're going to perform better. Rather than going, I'm nervous. Oh shit, no, oh my God, why am I doing this? Oh my God. I spent 10 years as a rap artist thinking, I didn't start rapping until I was 21. So I spent 10 years, I didn't start reading books till I was 21. I was off the rails between coming back from Jamaica and being 21 and then getting into the creative bit, which changed my life. Rapping changed my life and got me to where I am now. But I spent 10 years going on stage feeling like I was going to be sick every time. Because I had to learn. And during that time, I was just reading and learning a lot of science stuff, a lot of mystical stuff, spiritual stuff, that kind of, but just trying to learn. The first book I read was given to me by the guy who got me into a band called Mac. The Mac of all trades, he's called now. He's a rapper, producer, beatboxer, all-round musician, genius dude. And he persuaded me to try these poems that I had as raps with his rap band. And that changed my whole world. Yeah. Everything changed everything. Now, he had mates, they were all very clever. One of his mates was in Oxford University doing some microbiology, which if he's watching this, he's going, it's not microbiology, Ash. I've told you, it's not and then he explains to me what it is. He does, I go, but that's all like the biology of like microbes and that. Microbiology, innit? Anyway, he was clever dudes. And so I thought, shit. And I'd never read a book. And I wanted to write as well. I always knew I wanted to write. I didn't realise how hard it was to be a writer. I didn't realise I'd have to study for years and years, which involves reading every day. Anyway, Mac passed me a book called Where Are You Going by this guy called Swami Muktananda. And that question, it's in there. A few people have noticed that. So, I know he's written, where are you going? You can ask in the audience, where are we going, aren't you? So, yeah. Because that question was everything for me. Where are you going? Which meant to me finding out where I was, which means finding out who I am and how I got to be who I am, which means understanding who we are as a society and how we got to be where we are, which means understanding who we are as human beings, which means what is the universe, of which we are. The
big questions in philosophy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So through all that study, I eventually got to a point whereby, and through doing the things over and over again as well, I got to a point whereby and now I've got a lot of techniques I've taught myself from these books and seminars and courses and whatnot that we can share in a very simple way with people in prisons and help them to do the same for themselves. And the stories the anecdotes we could tell you about people who have never done a course in their lives, never had a qualification, never had a job, who've been in and out of prison for decades, drug addict, alcoholic for decades, don't have anything to do with the kids and the grandkids, you know what I mean? Just crazy lifestyle, who suddenly, throughout the course of the Rise Up programme, just go, some of these guys, I know some of these guys will be watching this now, you know, and there's one guy, for example, he just stood up about session 9, And the whole time he was kind of like, he looked like, you know, like inquisitive. He was like kind of, what is going on here? And now they're doing poems, and now they're doing a bit of like drama, and now they're doing this like sit here and close your eyes and breathe, and this, what? I said, what? But he kept coming back, you know, what is this? And then one day he sat there doing this thing the way he does, like just frowning, and then he just stood up. And you know what? I see what you're doing now. He said, the penny's just dropped. I've just this moment, I've just realised I don't want to be a weird guy who's in and out of prison all his life. I just want to be a dad and a granddad. And everyone went, yeah. And you know what? He's out with Nick. And just before the lockdown happened, probation were training him to be a mentor for other fellas on probation.
That's absolutely fantastic.
That's it. So it's all his whole life turned around, and now he's talking to his kids and grandkids, and it's been a couple of years now. He contacts me regularly gets in touch with me.
I know we're on lockdown, so a lot of the talks are shut down right now, schools and prisons. But if people want to reach out to you then to contact you to get you to do talks when it all gets going again, what link, do you have a website for this that I can put in the description box?
Yeah, Rise Up.
Rise Up.
Rise Up.
Okay.
Rise Up. Okay. Rise Up CIC.
Yeah.
It's a community insights company. Rise Up CIC.co.uk.
Yeah.
Get in touch. You'll also see the trailer for the book on the website and links. You can contact us directly.
So you've come in here and told us absolutely brilliant, gripping story today. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat, man, when you were just going through that prison experience. So I really appreciate that. Is there anything you would like to say in conclusion then to the people who are watching this?
Just the most important thing I think I can share is that we do have choice, and choice gives us control. So even in the most extreme circumstances, even if you are in the middle of Syria, in an extreme circumstance, there will be some people who will be running around panicking constantly and falling apart. There will be other people who will be going, let me just take, no, okay, you stay there, I'll go and get it, then we'll and just taking control of themselves and helping other people out. There are other people who will be using the situation to manipulate things, to make the most of it for themselves. Okay? 3 very different responses to the same input. So even if things are difficult for people right now, even if things aren't exactly how you would like, I know this time is really difficult for a lot of people, but you do have choice. And even if you start stressing and going off the rails, you have every second, every millisecond, you have a choice just to stop, breathe. You feel better now?
Just feel immediate relaxation, don't you? Nice deep breath.
Look out the window and just think about how beautiful them clouds are, man. How beautiful that breeze is. Open your front door and just feel that. Get out in the sunshine. You have choice. And honestly, if you give that choice away to other people, you are giving control of your life to other people. Alice Walker said the most common way that people give away their power is by believing they don't have any. You do have power. Even if you're sat in a prison cell now 23 hours a day because of the current situation, you still have a power over your thoughts and feelings and responses. So I don't want to preach, man. I don't want to go on either. I just feel that's the most important thing I can share right now. And apart from that, the only, maybe even more important than that is buy me book.
And watch his rap videos. Do you have a YouTube channel with your rap videos?
No. I don't plug myself as a rapper.
Okay.
I use rap now in these community settings.
Yeah.
So go in prisons, schools, whatever it is, I'll stick on the Dre beat. It's always the Still DRE beat. People love that beat. And I'll freestyle. I'll take people's words that they give me, write them down, and I'll freestyle songs using their words.
Can you bust out right now?
No, can I what?
Bust out some raps.
Can I start some raps right now?
Just an example.
Oh, just an example. Oh, God, you put me on the spot. Okay, yo. Oh, okay. I'll kick a freestyle around cause you know it's all good when I sit in Liverpool with your Shaun Attwood. A freestyle keep going, no one never stops. So go and buy my book, kid, you know it's called Locks. I'm doing this thing for my son and my daughter. When I'm on the mic, yes, I flow like water. Freestyle around, well, it always sounds cool. I rule in the city and it's called Liverpool. L to the 1 or the L to the 8. They know my name and they say that I'm great. Keep on rocking, no, I'm never ever stopping, cause I love what I do, they call it hip-hopping. Whether in prison, whether in the schools, come along with my brain, it's my tools. Bring my energy to set your soul free. Teach you how to be the best you can be. Spread your wings and just fly free. And ain't nobody else that can rock it like me. So stop there. Is that okay?
Oh, man. Absolutely brilliant. Arizona prison handshake bump. All right, so, wow. This has been a masterclass today in storytelling combined with an important social message and life lessons. So please go down and support Ash's work. Those links are going to be down there. And if you want to come on the podcast, if you've got a story to tell, did you see how I was just on the edge of my seat as Ash just slowly described how he went in there, the insects, the bites, the layout of the cell, who was looking at him, who was friendly, who was mean. This is classic storytelling at its finest. So if you want to come on, you've got to be able to describe things in that level of detail and really take the viewer there. No 10-second answers. It was, it's the cell stunk. People were mean. They got beat up. We want you to really set the table, bring the viewer there with you, and take them on that journey over however many hours it takes. Yeah. So, absolutely fantastic. I'm buzzing off hearing that, and huge thank you, to all of the viewers. Please let us know in the comments what you thought about today's video. Huge thank you to all the new subscribers. Subscription logo is in the bottom corner of the screen. And huge thank you to all people who've gone down and clicked on our social links and our donation links and everything else that is in the description box.
Can I say thank you to you?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much, Shaun, for the opportunity to come and just talk about the things that we're doing and to share this with your, you've got a huge audience now, so and I necessarily don't have that audience yet, so I really appreciate the opportunity to come and let people know about what we're doing.
Are you on Instagram and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, so on Instagram, I'm on Facebook as me, Ashleigh Nugent, but if you go to Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, I'm also on there as Locks.
Okay,
Locks
send us all those links and we're going to put them in as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting lots of interviews and reviews and all that kind of stuff at the moment. So everything's always put up on the social media.
Yeah.
And check the trailer too. Check the trailer.
This channel started 12 years ago with me just telling my prison story, and then all these wonderful people came into my life and helped me, who were more advanced in their journeys, and I started to help other guys being in prison, and then we branched out to ex-cops, ex-prison guards, abuse victims, and people who on the other side of crime, the receiving end of it. So that is our mission, trying to just get people's stories out there. It resonates with the audience. There's a lot of back and two things happen, and it helps people psychologically. It helped me definitely being able to tell my story and seeing all the love and support that comes in from it as well. And it reinforces that positive energy, just reinforces the entire journey and makes us want to just keep going down this path. And I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I get to my job is sitting here. Hearing amazing stories like yours.
Don't we have the best job in the world?
And
everyone, we are all responsible for ourselves. But when we do that, when we make that change in ourselves, it's a ripple in the pond, isn't it? It resonates out. And like you just said, you end up with this, all of a sudden, there's a whole new world out there. And you build this network of just beautiful, amazing, inspirational people, and it just keeps building. And now it seems like I've got a whole, to me now the whole world is on it. the whole world on it, because you just connect naturally with all the other people who are on it, and that brings other people in. And this is how we as a people rise up out of this nonsense, this oppressive nonsense that has been controlling the way people think and feel. It's like a 500-year process now. Our culture is in its adolescence. It was a baby 500 years ago when the Europeans went into the Americas, started doing more business in Africa, travelling further east, and we created this new culture, this global culture. And now we're in our adolescence, and that's why it's so tough. That's why people are kicking off, because being an adolescent is tough, because we have to grow. We have to decide, what are we really? Who are we?
I do have one final question for you as well, actually, that's just come to mind. So we talked about the mission statement there and the energy, and there's a guy out there right now in the podcast world who I really support. I've watched what he's doing, and I am going to be actually interviewing him this week, and that is Sam Souls. I'll put his channel link in the description box. Please go on down and support what he's doing. He's got such a nice vibe, just a good vibe. You can just see this guy just resonates pure soul energy. What you've just been on, you've been on with him. What was the experience like?
Just beautiful.
Yeah.
Sam Souls, you know, I went for a walk around Lincoln and stuff afterwards, and I felt like my heart was open.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, I just feel I know, you know, again, me and Sam just connected. We're like, oh, pure love. But it looks like he has that vibe with everyone that he talks to, you know what I mean? It just resonates, pure, beautiful energy. Like, and then I think for 2 days after, I was like, man, my heart is pure open.
Wow.
Just beautiful. Yeah.
I can't wait to meet him then.
Check out Chew the Chat, man. Chew the Chat podcast with Sam Souls. Just brilliant.
All right, give us a like then, Ash. Yeah, cheers. Fantastic.